We're starting basic. What is a task? A task is the smallest unit of work, something you can sit down and complete. It should ideally start with a verb like draft, create, record, write, review, etc. Ideally can be ticked off in one work sitting. This is how we are defining a task. A task is often stored in a task manager or a to-do list. For example, a paper list, Todoist is an app, Things3 is an app, Apple Reminders is an app, Google Keep is an app. Here are some examples of tasks. Draft email to marketing team about new campaign. Schedule dentist appointment. Create wireframe for homepage. Review and comment on Sarah's proposal. We're starting really, really basic here. Like, you guys are all familiar with this. Everyone, even if you don't have a system for tasks, you can hopefully appreciate that like this is what a task is, right? And so as we're given that we're trying to build an operating system, a productivity system for our work and for our life, we need to start with the fundamental atomic unit of work, which is a task. And I'm going to do a little Google Doc as an example. Buy groceries for the week. Thank you. Write song. Do Life OS homework. Very good. Sign contract for house. Pay mortgage for the month. Review contract for proposal or whatever. Prepare class. Change mobile phone contract. Write client overview. Do 10 push-ups. Prepare weekly team meeting. Schedule meetings for the week. Do morning manifesto. Update security software. You get the idea, right? We all intuitively know what tasks are. They start with verbs. Buy, write, do, sign, pay, review, prepare, etc. You get the idea. This is how tasks work. We're starting simple, don't worry. It gets more interesting with this, I promise. But there is a trouble with just thinking about tasks. Tasks in isolation can feel overwhelming, like an endless list of stuff to do. It's hard to see often how individual tasks can connect to a bigger goal. And it's very easy to lose sight of the bigger picture if all you have is this long-ass list of tasks. This is why almost no one who has a sensible productivity system realistically just organizes things by task, right? It just gets a bit like, it's a bit all over the place. It's a bit like just this endless list of random stuff. Cool. And it can lead to completing lots of tasks, but not making meaningful progress. A lot of movement, but not a lot of progress. That is what happens when we're very focused on tasks. A lot of movement, but not necessarily a lot of progress. And honestly, it's very difficult to prioritize when everything looks like an equal-sized task. So then various people over the years have recognized the value of organizing tasks by project. This is where the idea of projects comes in. Begs the question, what is a project? I'm going to tell you a project, in my opinion, is a collection of related tasks working towards a specific outcome. A project usually has a clear deliverable or end state in mind. It is often multi-step, taking multiple work sessions to complete. Most task apps will have a projects functionality, sometimes called lists, to group tasks together. And we track progress on our projects in our weekly review. Here are some examples of projects. Website redesign, Q3 marketing campaign, home office setup, family summer vacation planning, for example. And we have various examples here, so I'm going to write projects. Cool, so I'm going to say write term paper is a project. Give me some more examples, you guys. Plan team retreat is a project. Get a job is a project. Build my anti-nuclear shelter. Very nice. Plan bachelorette party trip. Thank you. Run for local office. Okay, you get the idea, right? These are projects. Projects are merely collections of tasks. So for example, the task for write term paper is, I don't know, review materials, write first draft, ask Claude.ai to improve first draft, send to supervisor, right? You can imagine that being a project of write term paper. Plan team retreat might be, I don't know, put dates in diary, Notion, make Notion page with 10 options, send options to Angus for approval, book, and pay, for example. These are, again, we're keeping things simple because I want to make sure everyone kind of is on the same page about where and why we get to the concept of quests and side quests and all that nonsense. Okay, nice. So a project is merely a collection of tasks. Generally, I like to think of a task as can be done in one sitting. So for example, write song for me is more like a project than a task because I don't know how to write songs. So write my first song would be a project, which would require multiple tasks and multiple sittings in order to complete the project. But if you're a pro, if you're John Mayer or Ed Sheeran, maybe write song is a task, because for you can just sit down and bang it out in one sitting. You don't need the structure of a project to make it happen. For me these days, create YouTube video is a single, film YouTube video is a task. But if you're new to filming YouTube videos, good luck trying to make a YouTube video in one sitting. It's, you know, at different levels of experience and different things. Some things will merely be tasks and some things will be projects. If you're a 3-year-old, do a poo is a project, right? If you're 3 years old, right? Because you have to like get up, you have to go to the toilet, you have to like figure things out, you have to put things in the right place, you have to call for your mum or your dad to come and wipe you and blah, 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 blah. Like, you know, but for most of us, going to the toilet is no longer a project. It's not even a task that we have to put in our task list, right? It's just something that we just do. You don't need to remind yourself in your to-do list to brush your teeth, I would hope. You don't need to remind yourself to wake up in the morning and make coffee. You don't need to have a project called make coffee. That's like, I don't know, grind coffee, measure it out, use the AeroPress. Like, you just don't need to do that, right? I think the reason I'm mentioning this ridiculous example is because it highlights the notion that not everything needs to be a task, not everything needs to be a project. There is just some stuff that you just do automatically without having to think too hard about it. You don't need to make a task out of brushing your teeth. You don't need to make a calendar event out of brushing your teeth. The point of the system, a task manager, a project list, a calendar, is to remind you of the stuff that you might otherwise forget to do. No one forgets to make coffee in the morning, so you don't need to put it on your task list. So this is, I'm giving this ridiculous example because I genuinely see a lot of people try and create tasks for everything. Again, if you try and put everything into your task list or your project list, it's going to feel overwhelming because you're going to have these zillion things and you're not going to know what's what. The point is that we're only going to focus on the stuff that would not otherwise happen by default. Cool. So we have projects and we have tasks. Generally, tasks can be done in one sitting, and generally projects require multiple work sessions to complete. What's a work session? Well, when you sit down and work for a session, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, you can generally do a task. Projects generally require multiple work sessions to complete. We end up with a situation where we have a bunch of different projects with a bunch of different tasks underneath them. Then we introduce the concept of area. So what is an area? Areas are categories or spheres of life where your projects list, where your projects live. And a common way to organize areas is something like work, sales, marketing, operations, admin, life, health, family, home, relationships, personal growth. These are all different areas, for example. But you get this complex categorization can lead to overthinking and overhead, and I don't like it. My personal approach and my personal recommendation is keep it simple with just two areas. Work for everything that is professional and life for everything that is personal. Those are the only two areas or domains or spheres or whatever you want to call it, one level above projects that I personally believe in. You can obviously define areas however you like, but this would be my personal recommendation to keep things simple. Why does this work? Because it reduces decision fatigue, it prevents overcategorization, and enforces clear work-life boundaries. So, for example, let's look at projects. Write term paper. Area. Work. I'm going to assume that's work. Plan team retreat is work. Get a job is work. Build anti-nuclear shelter, I suspect, is not work. This is the area of life. So this is life. Plan bachelor trip is life. Run for local office. Maybe that's life. Write my first song. Maybe that's life. You get the idea. That actually worked quite nicely. So we have project number 1. Write term paper. Project number 2. Plan retreat. Project number 3. Get a job. All of these are projects within the area of work. Then we have number 1, build my anti-nuclear shelter. Number 2, plan bachelor trade. Number 3, run for local office, write my first song. These are all examples based on what you guys are mentioning in the blue chat. So these are multiple areas. The area of work and the area of life. You could, if you really wanted to. Here's another way of doing it. You can have an area called home. You can have an area called relationships. You can have an area called kids. You can have an area called marriage. You can have an area called, I don't know, music. You can have all those different areas, but I've found for most people, in most situations, just separating projects into work and life is all you really need. You have now areas, projects, and tasks. You have work that has multiple projects with associated tasks, but also sometimes you just have tasks that don't neatly fall into a project, but still are in the area of work. This is what this might look like. And then you have the area of life. Life has its own projects, which each have their own tasks, but you might also have some tasks that are in life, but not directly related to a specific project. Like pay the bills, for example, is a life task, but not necessarily related to a project that you particularly care about. It's just one of those annoying life tasks that has to be done, right? So feel free to screenshot this. This is sort of like areas, projects, and tasks, how it fits into LifeOS. Okay. But then we have another problem, and that is a problem with projects and tasks. Projects can quickly multiply. I don't know if anyone else has had that experience, but where you have all these different projects and you have like 20 plus active projects at a given time, and you have all these different things that you're working on, and it's just a kind of overwhelming, kind of annoying. The other issue is that unless you have another system within this, all projects will start to feel equally important, and it's very easy to spread yourself too thin on trying to progress on everything. It's very hard to know which projects deserve your best time and energy unless you really, really think about it, and it can lead to a lot of projects moving forward very slowly rather than any particular project being, like any particular meaningful project getting completed. And so that is where we come to the idea of quests, by choosing certain priority projects as quests. And this is a diagram from Essentialism. By having like 20 different projects, you've got your energy scattered in all these different directions. But by picking one thing and focusing on just that one thing, you can make way more progress in one area compared to the fake progress or the fake feeling of progress that you get by making progress across multiple fronts. I know all of us here are multi-passionate people. We all have different interests and different hobbies, and of course we want to advance all of our projects all at the same time. But one of the key things that I've learned over the years of being into this productivity stuff, this is a key principle in Slow Productivity by Cal Newport as well, is that if you work on 10 different things, it's not like you're not making 10% progress in 10 different areas. In reality, you're making like 5% progress in 10 different areas. Whereas if you work on one thing, you make 100% progress in that one thing. Adding more stuff to the list does not linearly reduce your attention. It exponentially reduces your attention because there's all sorts of like overhead tasks and all sorts of like mental and physical and like emotional and frictional overhead associated with changing tasks and changing projects and trying to manage all these different things, that it's actually not at all effective to try and make progress across 10 different fronts. We really want to focus as much as we possibly can on the one, or maybe two, or maybe three absolute key things.